Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from Solar Games, and today I'm going to give you a little tip on how to uncurl your cards. So, as you know, Wizards makes foils that are curled, and of course, you have foils that are kind of worth money. You really don't want them to be curled this much, very Pringle-like. I hope that's showing well. Let's do a background here. You see how that's a ton of curling. So. Curling has some problems, obviously. They're not legally tournament legal, plus it's just kind of like wonky. And also, if you have more curl cards in your collection, when you put them all together, they're going to kind of curl each other, so it really doesn't help. The best way to prevent curling, actually, is the moment you take them out of the pack, put them into a perfect fit, and that usually, and just one perfect fit is fine. You don't have to double sleeve it. Of course, if you can, that's better. But what that's going to do is that's going to basically prevent the moisture from getting into the card, and that will prevent it from curling, or at least it'll curl very slowly. And the reason the curling happens is, I know people talk about card quality. One of the actual reasons, just because this surface has like it's a foil surface that's not the same as this surface, and so of course when moisture gets on two sides of the card, one side of course stretches, the other side like contracts, and so that's how it pulls. That's why some cards curl up like up and down, other ones curl like left to right. So again, just depends on what material, where it's made. The other problem is when they make these cards, if they're print in a different environment, a different moisture environment, of course, being in where you are, it changes things. So. But how do you deal with this? Once they're curled like this, what can you do to uncurl them? Of course, you can try to bend them, but that's actually could be damaging for the card. So I'm going to show you a way to do it that's not damaging for the card, but actually works really well. So the first thing you want to do is you want to slot these cards into a perfect fit. And the reason we do this is because we're going to just protect the cards while we go through this process. The next step you're going to need is you're going to need a spherical object like this. So I use a water bottle that I normally use. It's perfect. You can use a cup, anything really, like even a plastic PVC pipe. The thing you want to be aware of is this. I guess make sure that it's large enough, round enough, because the bigger this bottle is, the more gradual that uncurling is, right? So it's not as like sharp. If you can imagine, if you have a very small like thin tube, then you're going to be curling the card really hard the other way. So what you do is, I use blue tape. I've seen people use duct tape to do this part, but basically what you do is, you don't have to do what I did. I did two sides so I can uncurl two cards at a time, but I basically taped a normal penny sleeve into the blue tape. And so what I've done is basically a layer after layer after layer of blue tape, and then just kind of put it all together, make sure it's up, where every piece is sealed. And then I put a penny, I taped a penny into this. And the reason you do this is now there is a nice slot that you can just directly put your card in. Remember to put it facing away from the curving. So if the card is curling outward, right? So you face it inward this way, so it's already, so this will kind of bend it back slowly. Again, the larger the circle, the more like gradual this bend is. And when you put the card back in, just gently push, but lock in every piece of it nicely, and make sure it's tightly pressed in, locked in, and just keep it in place. Usually and you can adjust. I would just do a little bit testing with cards you have before you try to uncurl larger cards. But in general, for like this bottle here, I basically curl like anywhere between like 2 to 4 hours is enough to do the uncurling. Don't do it overnight, because you could actually bend the card the other way. In theory though, because of the way the moisture works, even if it bends the other way, it's totally fine. It'll probably be okay long term. But this is basically what you're doing is you're slowly, because you're setting up the card to be in this shape, so you're slowly uncurling that card, letting the outer layer relax a little bit, and so it kind of gets into this new shape, right, of the card. So if you do this and just hold it in here for like 4 hours or so, and you take it out, you can actually get some nice uncurled cards out of this. So this is what I do for uncurling cards. It totally works. It's not damaging for your cards. Again, all you're doing is you're basically, imagine if you could slowly stretch the card and hold it in place for a couple hours, right? That's a lot safer than try to just bend the card right away. So this is what I do, and it's worked really well. You will notice some of the cards will uncurl back. So one of the things you want to do is after it comes out of those sleeves, make sure just to put another, like, you can even put a penny on the outside or something, just double sleeve it and just have the card like be ready. So basically you're not looking at another uncurling event for the future, right? So basically once it comes out, it's already flattened. You want to basically straighten it out and then lock in the moisture within the card so it doesn't even have a chance to curl back. A double sleeve does that because basically a double sleeve is airtight, waterproof, so you prevent the moisture from even getting in. Anyways, just a pro tip on doing that. So this is going to stay in here for 2 hours, and then when they come out, they might even curl kind of like the other way for a little bit. But if you let it just relax, or I just put it into pennies, put it into like a nice dragon shield if it's an expensive card. And it basically works. It works really well. And you can take cards that are like really, really, really curled, right? Like this one, and make it like slightly curled. They're not going to be perfect. I don't think there's an easy way to make these cards perfect. Again, just because the moisture isn't the same between where the card was made and where you live probably. It's always going to try to curl if you take it out into the air. But you can get it into a nice shape that's way better than I guess what this is. So. Anyways, try that out. It works for me, so I hope it works for you. And good luck. It's Mark, Solar Games. I'll see you next time.